Today, we're going to flip the script on how we think about business growth. We're talking about a concept called the efficiency multiplier, and we're going to explore how tiny, almost invisible changes in your day-to-day can lead to absolutely massive results. You know the drill, right? It's the classic business playbook. Go big or go home. You got to land that whale of a client, launch that disruptive new product. This is the story we're all told about what success is supposed to look like. But, and this is the big question for today, what if that's not the whole story? What if that constant chase for the big win is actually making us blind to a more powerful, more sustainable way to grow that's already happening right inside our own companies? Okay, so that leads us right into our first section, what I like to call the big growth myth. We're about to challenge that old way of thinking and find out where the real leverage is. See, the secret weapon for growth isn't some huge, heroic effort. Not really. It's actually the sum of a ton of small, smart improvements that you make over and over again. A smoother workflow here, a faster process there. That is the real foundation for growth. And this brings us to the heart of the matter, the efficiency multiplier. It's a really cool concept that explains how all these little tweaks can build up into something with a truly dramatic impact. So here's how it works, in a nutshell. You start with small, totally manageable improvements to how you do things. Those little changes create consistent, predictable wins. And then, over time, those wins start to compound, just like interest in a bank account, creating this massive overall impact on the business. So why should you care? Because the benefits here are huge, and they're tangible. We're talking about saving real time, not just in one little area, but all across the board. It means fewer mistakes, which means less of that frustrating and expensive rework. It makes your whole team more productive, and, this is the big one, it builds a solid foundation so you can scale your business in a stable, healthy way. All right, so if we're going to find these opportunities, we have to know where to look. And a lot of the time, they're hiding in what we call hidden time drains. You know, those small, repetitive tasks that we do without even thinking. It's so easy to focus on the big, obvious problems, right? Like losing a client or a product launch that bombs. But the real silent killers of productivity, they're the sneaky ones. Things like manually typing in data, double-checking calculations, chasing down approvals. Each one feels like no big deal on its own, but when you add them all up, they are a constant, massive drain on your resources. So if those are the problems, how do we fix them? Let's look at two really powerful solutions that are specifically designed to target these exact kinds of inefficiencies. And you can see how different tools are for different jobs. On one hand, you have something like offshore tax preparation. That's perfect for tackling those complex, periodic projects with tight deadlines, like tax season. But then you've got accounts payable outsourcing. That's all about fixing those small, daily micro inefficiencies, the stuff that feels like death by 1,000 cuts for your team every single day. So what's the payoff here? Well, these kinds of solutions help standardize your workflows, which cuts down on mistakes. You get dedicated teams who can just power through high-volume work, which means faster turnarounds. And most importantly, it frees up your own team to focus on the strategic work that actually grows the business. Okay, now for the really cool part. Let's actually see how these small fixes start to compound into something truly significant. This is where the multiplier effect really comes to life. It all starts small, almost ridiculously small. Let's say we save just 10 minutes on one single boring task. I mean, it hardly seems worth mentioning, right? 10 minutes? Big deal. But what happens when that one little task is done, say 20 times a day by your team? Suddenly that tiny 10 minutes turns into more than 3 hours of reclaimed time every single day. Now we're starting to see a real impact. And then, when you zoom out and look at the whole year, that's around 800 hours. 800 hours of your expert's time that can be redirected from tedious, busy work into strategy, client relationships, and innovation. That is the efficiency multiplier in action. It's not a small gain anymore. It's a total transformation. A great way to think about this is like a fitness routine. You don't see a dramatic change after one workout or after eating one healthy meal. It just doesn't work that way. But the small, consistent efforts you make every single day, they compound over months and years into a complete transformation. It's the exact same principle at work here. So this all sounds pretty good, right? But how can you actually put it into practice? Well, the good news is you don't need some massive, disruptive overhaul to get started. The process is actually pretty straightforward. First, just identify those repetitive tasks. Start looking for the things your team does over and over and over again. Second, you got to measure how much time they're really spending on them. Then you can outsource strategically to experts in areas like tax prep and accounts payable. And finally, track the results. Just watch the time savings and accuracy improvements roll in. And what does success look like in the end? It's simple, really. It's your team feeling less bogged down by busy work. It's getting things done faster and more accurately. And ultimately, it's about having more time and energy to focus on the work that truly matters for moving your business forward. So let's end with this key takeaway. In business, just like in life, the small things really do matter. Those minor improvements, those tiny efficiencies, they don't stay small. When you're consistent, they compound, they multiply, and they build into something incredibly powerful. The question really isn't whether you have time for small improvements, it's whether you can afford not to.